Hello, I'm Brian Fox. Welcome to I Hate Rock Music. And I'm going to do a list today that proves exactly why I don't hate rock music. I fucking love rock music. And for me, there's nothing better than a live album. And I know there's a lot of people that have mixed feelings about live albums. They'd rather hear the really clean um, versions of people's records, and they just don't like the live records. They don't think they sound as good. They don't sound like the songs that they remember, and all kinds of nonsense like that. But for me, a live album is the essence of a great rock album. What a band can do live really speaks volumes about what they're about. In fact, I would say the opposite, that I'm disappointed in a lot of studio albums that don't capture the live energy of a great rock band. And so I'm gonna do a list of my favorite 25 live rock albums. A lot of them are officially released, but some of them are bootlegs. Sometimes bootlegs actually are better live albums than what are commercially released. And of course, it was hard to narrow down in some cases because some of these bands have multiple live albums, and a lot of them are pretty good. But I'm gonna focus in on the ones that mean the most to me. I know there's a lot of fans out there that would probably suggest Queen Live or Kiss Alive or Frampton Comes Alive or one of those big rock albums, live rock albums, would be on their top list. But my list is a little different. Some of them are better known than others. And like I say, some of them are bootlegs, so people may or may not have heard some of these. And these are in no particular order because I would have a really hard time saying what my number one live rock album is, and then putting someone else at the end of 25. So these are in no order, but I'm going to do a commentary pretty quick because I want to run through this list so the video isn't too long. So number one is Cheap Trick Samurai Rock Band, recorded at the Rockford Armory in 1977. And the bootleg is the best version. There's other versions that are out there now, but that bootleg is the best because nobody bothered to clean it up, and it's really fucking loud. And it's just got a great song selection from their first album, including a couple songs they did live that they didn't record, like Please Mrs. Henry and Loser, and it's just stunning. The band is at their peak, and the material is killer. Number two, of course, is Who Live at Leeds. Now that we have the CD, we have the full show, but for most of my life, that was one of the greatest live records of all time. The Who at the height of their powers and being as powerful and loud and unruly as they ever were. And the 68, 69 show, 68 shows are really great too, but Who Live at Leeds is just definitive. What an amazing band. Number three is Humble Pie Performance. Of course, up to that point, they were more eclectic, but then they decided to focus in on hard rock. And then the Performance Rock in the Fillmore album came out in 1971. Again, the band was at the height of their powers. Peter Frampton was still with them. An amazingly powerful record. They were so tight and so incredible. Now, of course, we have the box set of all four shows they did. And I was fortunate enough to see Humble Pie, the first tour with Clem Clemson, and then I saw the Eat It tour in '73 too, and they were just as amazing live. Well, more so because they're right there. What an incredible sound! They're a great band. Number five is the Allman Brothers at the Fillmore East in 1970. Definitive record by them. It captured everything that was great about the Allman Brothers at the height of their powers, and for not being a really heavy band, they're so deep. The album really catches that. Number six actually is Velvet Underground at the Gymnasium in 1968, and there's a lot of great Velvet Underground live shows out there. The '69 Live officially released record is really excellent and kind of low key, but this Gymnasium show that just showed up in the last few years captures the early band once again at their most wild and experimental, and it's just a blessing that it finally got released and discovered. Number seven is Johnny Winter and Live, 1970. I think Johnny Winter and particularly was one of the great classic American rock bands, and it's too bad that they didn't stay together longer than a studio album and a live album. But that live album is incredible with Johnny embracing rock full on and using Rick Derringer as a foil, and of course Bobby Caldwell on drums. Truly incredible. Number 8 is Jimi Hendrix Band of Gypsies, 1970. I don't really have to say much about that. One of Jimi Hendrix's consummate performances and one of the greatest albums ever released. Number 9 is King Crimson. I'm going to cheat a little bit here. King Crimson, The Great Deceiver Box, has several live shows. That period of King Crimson with John Wetton is one of the greatest bands that's ever existed. And to have all that stuff played live is astonishing. An incredible lineup, incredible music, and there's lots of improv on there. Definitely one of the all-time great combos in rock music and music in general. Number 10, Led Zeppelin Pure Blues, the Texas Pop Festival 1969. Once again, there's tons of great Led Zeppelin shows out there, but for me, they were at the peak of their power in 1969. They were at the peak of their power at this show. It's a really well recorded bootleg, and they are just ferocious. And so for me, it's the pinnacle of Led Zeppelin recordings, one of many. Number 11 is the Rolling Stones' Nasty Songs, 1972. Once again, I think this bootleg captures the Rolling Stones live better than any of the other live material out there. Once again, there's a ton, but this show, once again, it's a bootleg. Nobody fucked with it and cleaned it up, and it is completely in your face. The band is at their peak, playing all that great material from Exile on Main Street. They're at their decadent best, and by the time they get to the medley of Rip This Joint and Street Fight Man, they sound almost punk. It's so in your face and so raw and so incredible. Number 12 is David Bowie's Santa Monica 1972, now officially released, but it was available as a bootleg for years. But I think it's one of the greatest concerts ever. Mike Garson is on keyboards, but he's kind of mixed down, so you get to hear the full glory of the power trio backing up Bowie. And of course, in '72, there's nothing but stellar material and then incredible jams on there. Mick Ronson at his peak, and it's just an amazing record. Definitely my favorite David Bowie live record. Number 13 is The Replacement Stink from 1982. Now that we have the CD, we have the entire show. But holy shit, it is so bitchin'. I was really shocked that a band just came out of the Midwest. I had their records before that, but I wasn't really prepared for just what a motherfucker the Replacements were live on that Stink record. Really put most punk bands per se to shame. Just unbelievable. Number 14 is the Beatles Rooftop Concert. Of course, we have it now available officially, but just the fact that the Beatles were kind of in their waning days and they just decided to take a break from rehearsals and go up to a roof of a building and play as beautifully and eloquently and perfectly and soulfully as they did. I just find that stunning because when you go through the rehearsal tapes, you know, they practically sound like a garage band, and then they just go up to the roof of this building and unleash this magic. It's really a shame that they didn't feel comfortable going out and playing live at that point. Incredible show. Number 15 is the Groundhogs live at Leeds, 1971. And they opened for the Rolling Stones at Leeds, and this record was released as a promo only for many, many years. I remember buying a copy from a friend of mine that worked at a record store back in about '79, and I paid $100 for it, which seems like a lot at the time, but total Groundhogs fan. Groundhogs are one of the greatest, most underrated rock bands in British history. Britain knows all about them, but a lot of people in the U.S. don't. And just a shredding performance. Tony McPhee is just amazing on guitar, and killer band, killer record. Number 16 is Thin Lizzy Live and Dangerous, 1978. And once again, there's a lot of great Thin Lizzy shows out there. The 75 tours out now, and it's really, really excellent. I love that period of the band. But you can't deny that Live and Dangerous really defined the band. Great material, the band at the height of their powers. I got to see them open for Queen. It must have been '78 because Gary Moore was playing guitar for them. Brian Robertson had cut his hand or something. So anyway, they opened for Queen, and they were unbelievable, so powerful, and just crazy. So that live album is definitive, and with all the great material they have, and what a fine-tuned band they were. It would have to be a great live record. Number 17 is The Damned, Captain's Birthday Party from 1977. The Damned records, studio records were cool, and I pretty much thought the Sex Pistols were pretty much the most over-the-top, ferocious punk band at the time. But The Damned on the Captain's Birthday Party and their version of I Feel All Right, and then all the other songs live, it's just astonishing. I can see why people now are arguing that they might have been the greatest punk band, because that live record is just brutal. Number 18 is the Blue Oyster Cult in Rochester, 1972. You can get bootlegs of the entire show now. For many years, there was a Columbia promo-only 12-inch called the Blue Oyster Cult Bootleg EP, recorded at like a pizza parlor. And I love early Blue Oyster Cult, and this show captures them better than certainly their other live albums. I know On Your Feet or On Your Knees is just a little muddy, and it just doesn't have that electricity and spunk. And later live records just don't capture the early band. The early band was completely unique and a total bitch live, and Rochester 72 totally captures why at one point in time they were one of the greatest rock bands in America. Number 19 is another bootleg. Steppenwolf live at the Fillmore in 1968, and their official live album from 1970. It pales in comparison, and I love Steppenwolf, and I do like other live material by them, but this 1968 Fillmore show is just stunning. It's their first tour. They really stretch out on even their big hits. There's a lot of improvisation on it, and they prove that not only were they great improvisers, but they were a truly authentic, deep blues band, and it really shows on this record. And the ensemble playing by the band is great, and especially when you get to hear them improvise a lot with their original guitar player. It's unbelievable. I can't believe they haven't released it officially, because it's really just amazing. Number 20 is Van der Graaf Generator's Vital from 1978. And I've always loved Van der Graaf Generator. Peter Hamill has got a one-of-a-kind voice. And Van der Graaf Generator is unique among progressive bands. And they were in a period in 1978 where they added a violin player, and Peter Hamill was playing more guitar. And so they had a huge catalog of material to draw from at that point. And it's just an astonishing show. Once again, such an utterly unique band, and to have that live document with all the ragged edges and all the glory of what Van der Graaf Generator were capable of, real edge. And clearly they were responding to the punk rock environment that they found themselves in. Number 21 is the Iggy and the Stooges at Goose Creek. They discovered about 10 years ago these soundboard tapes of that show. We've seen the video for years, but they finally found the audio of it, and it's just amazing to have. It's still a little lo-fi relatively, but to have a board tape of the Stooges at their height in 1970, incredible. The Funhouse era, it's just all Stooges glory. And there's a lot of great Stooges bootleg that represent different points in their career: Metallic KO and the Ungano Show and the Electric Circus and the like. But this one is definitely the Mac Daddy of Stooges live recordings, and it's amazing that they found it after all these years. Number 22, MC5, Kick Out the Jams. To me, it's incredible that was their debut album. They decided to release a live album. I can't comprehend the sonics on that record, the onslaught that the MC5 unleashes on that record. They're at their full manic energy and their full power, and they managed to capture it on vinyl. And in a lot of ways, I do think it's the greatest live rock album of all time. Just wonderful to hear. And it's kind of funny because when I was a teenager, it was in all the cutout bins for like $1. And I remember reading in Rolling Stone, even as a young teenager, that MC5 weren't that good. So I kept passing it over, and then finally just decided to buy it. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And I can't believe that band was ever maligned. Of course, their legend's intact now, but what an incredible band. What an incredible record. What an incredible moment. Number 23, Big Star live at WLIR, just for the fact that we're blessed to have a live recording of that quality from Big Star, because their records certainly weren't that well known, and we had to wait all these years. I actually got to hear it on the radio. I was living in New York at the time, listening to all the WLIR concerts, and I was amazed when I heard that. I was already a fan because I managed to pick up Radio City in cutouts for $1, and I bought it having no idea who they were or what it was going to sound like, and I kept listening to it and just kept getting it under my skin. So by the time I was 14, it was already one of my favorite rock albums of all time. And even as stripped down as they are on this live record, just the three-piece, it's just consummate. How could it not be? Jody Stevens is an incredible drummer. Um, uh, Alex Chilton is such a plaintive singer, and the songs are timeless. So it's really great that we have that record. Number 24 is The Pretty Things in Amsterdam, 1969, and it's available on a crappy bootleg. There's a great posting of it here on YouTube in stunning sound quality, and it's fairly short, but I've always loved The Pretty Things. That whole era of Parachute and SF Sorrows, really, really brilliant. And I had no idea that they could be as great as they are in that live show, especially in that quality. Just amazing band. The show was so good. It just upped the ante for how I feel about The Pretty Things. And then number 25, The Doors at the Matrix in 1967. And once again, there's a lot of bootlegs floating around of that show for many, many years. But now, of course, through the Doors label, the whole Matrix, all the Matrix shows have been released. And for that early period, when the Doors first appeared, how could you go wrong? Once again, they were at the height of their powers even that early. And the band is just so diabolical and so wonderful, and still hungry. And then undeniably all that amazing material they had to work with, including all these extended versions of the end and the like. Wow. Once again, there's a ton of great Doors live shows out there, but for me, Stockholm '68 is really killer too. But the Doors in 1967 at the Matrix, wow, amazing. So that's my list of my favorite rock albums of all time, live rock albums of all time. And I'm sure if I snooped around a little bit, I could find more to add to the list, but I wanted to keep it tight at 25. So I can't add number 26, but if I did, it would probably be Melt Banana, the Japanese punk metal avant band, 13,000 miles at light velocity. Astonishing record, and astonishing they can pull that stuff off live, and just manic and unbelievable. But I'll stop there. Let's just pretend that I only have 20 of my favorite live rock albums, and that's the list. So feel free to comment below. I'd love to hear what anybody has to say about any of these shows, or what their favorite live rock albums are. I'm Brian Fox. Thanks for watching I Hate Rock Music.